Hey YouTubers, what's up? So this is going to be my Agent Carter episode 3 video. Nice deep cut into Jarvis. This is actually, I felt like much more of a Jarvis episode than it was a Peggy Carter episode. We also got to meet a new character who might turn out to be someone special. The person that's playing Dottie, like the new character, she's Rose from Jane the Virgin. She was in a bunch of those episodes. She was also in a bunch of White Collar episodes too. She's supposed to be a ballet dancer, so I'm wondering if she's going to be tied to this Leviathan plot just because Leviathan is a Russian organization. The ballet thing also kind of made me think of that shot in the Age of Ultron trailer with the dancers. Okay, so careful for spoilers from the episode, and what I'm going to do in this video is just going to be a little bit different than before. I'm going to do my top 5 moments, and then I'll do my top 5 thumbs down instead of giving it like a regular rating. So, starting off, top 5 moments. Number 5, Spider-Man does not know the rules of the house. I guess you could also take this as like a Daredevil joke too. I thought of it more as a Spider-Man thing. It's just a brief moment of comedy that, like creepy stalker guy climbing up the drain pipe turns out to be some horn dog trying to get to the girl next door. I did like the way they followed up on it with the breakfast later on, but I feel like the nighttime scenes, like these covert, funny nighttime scenes, are going to be way more rewarding in terms of this boarding house. It just feels like that's where the action's going to be. If it's an impenetrable fortress and getting above the first floor is like the big deal, then obviously people trying to get above the first floor is what's going to be exciting. I feel like if they wanted to take the joke just a step further, they would have just had her punch him right in the face and he would have just fallen off to the street. I guess it was too high. That would have been kind of dark. He probably would have broken his back. Number 4, Agent Sousa and the SSR double down on Stark and the mystery tipster. There were actually quite a few bummer moments in this episode, like a lot of Peggy getting thrown under the bus. And as much as Sousa is her supporter, like behind the scenes, like he really supports Peggy inside the SSR, he's really going after this tipster, like he's trying to connect the tipster to the professional hit, meaning that he's going to be chasing down Peggy. It just ups the threat level for them discovering that Peggy is the tipster. Because if they do find out, at least at this point, she's definitely going to jail. It also seems like they all want to shoot Stark in the face. Like they really want to hate him. I imagine a lot of people feel the same way about Tony Stark too. They just want to walk up and punch him in the face. This seemed a little extreme though. This was like one of the few things I had an issue with. At this point, all we know is that Stark built the weapons and then someone came along and stole them. I don't know if there's a deeper connection. It seems like there might be something else going on that we just don't know yet about what Stark has been up to. Number 3, Peggy does not mind jumping on the occasional grenade. I knew Peggy was going to create a diversion somehow. I didn't know that she was going to throw herself on that grenade. Just to be clear, in case you were a little confused, what she did is claimed she messed up the paperwork on the missing car. So Jarvis used the car as the excuse. He's like, oh, I reported that missing, but they couldn't find the paperwork. So Peggy used that. I was a little surprised with how badly they blew their stacks. This is like the first big instance of Peggy getting thrown under the bus. Like, not only can she not take credit for all these big wins, she also has to get yelled at all day. Like, it's not enough that people make rude comments about her. Now they're just like straight up yelling in her face. This is obviously going to make the payoff that much sweeter whenever she's vindicated, but who knows when that's going to happen? Like, is it going to be the final episode, like in the finale, or will it carry into season 2? I feel like they have to give her a big win at some point. Like, they can't keep doing this to her without giving her some giant win, and she really didn't get one in this episode. Did anyone else think about Captain America throwing himself on the grenade in the first movie? I feel like Peggy instantly knew what she was going to do. Although I do think it was really smart of them to include that scene at the diner. Like, she really is getting ready to cry. She's not a human model decoy. Like, she has feelings. That scene in the automat actually reminded me of the end credits scene in Iron Man 3 whenever Tony Stark was pouring his heart out to Bruce Banner. Like, she was getting ready to let all her feels out. I am a little bit worried for the amount of trust that she's placing in Angie. Like, we really don't have a reason to trust Angie at this point. Lindsay Fonseca is a pretty big character. I think it's implied that she's going to be a good person. I don't think she's evil, but I feel like she's hiding something. Like, there'll be some deeper layer to her character that we don't know about yet. This show is like a Marvel spy thriller TV show, so no one character is ever going to be just exactly what you see. There's always going to be some sort of secret that they have, so I'm really interested to learn what Angie's secret is. On to number 2, Leviathan covers their tracks. This mystery group of people here that came up and killed Agent Krasinski in The Witness, they could have been Leviathan, they could have been Roxxon, or they could be some other group that we haven't met yet. I don't think they'll get too complicated. Like, the only big organizations that we know about at this point are the SSR, Leviathan, and Roxxon. So it's one of those 3. And I don't think it's an inside job. Although I wouldn't be surprised, given all the Winter Soldier Hydra infiltration stuff, if there are Leviathan people inside the SSR. We really aren't even halfway through the season, so they're still building for that big reveal, like who this organization really is, like what's going on. I think when we learn who Leviathan is, we'll find out who these people are that are cleaning up all over town. I do want to believe that Roxxon is connected to Leviathan. There's been this big teaser about shaping the future. There are a couple people that have capabilities to do that. There are people with technology like Howard Stark, money and power, and the other person that has a lot of money and power is Ray Wise's character. Really still more questions than answers at this point, and I'm expecting that to continue all the way through episode 4. I think it'll be like episode 6 or 7 before we get any kind of big villain reveals. And my number one moment, Jarvis backstory explained. Deep dive into Jarvis. This was actually one of my favorite things about the episode. Just listening to Jarvis talk about himself. Most of my experience with the Avengers and Jarvis are with the more recent comics, and I think it's really like the classic Avengers comics that deal more with the Edwin Jarvis character, so there's a lot that I've missed. They are taking some liberties with the character, like this is the new Marvel universe, the Marvel Cinematic Universe that they're working inside of, but I do feel like there are probably a lot of Easter eggs for people that are fans of the classic comic. At first glance, he does seem like an Alfred Pennyworth type character, former RAF, except the fact that he got dishonorably discharged. I do like the setup that he has principles, like he's a very noble person, very loyal, and he's totally willing to break the rules for the right reasons. I feel like that's the DNA of the Avengers right there. They're good people, but they do break the rules all the time. It also makes the Howard Stark character more sympathetic. He probably saw what Jarvis was doing and then wanted to help him out. Thus, he came to be Stark's Alfred Pennyworth. I also really appreciated that they made his wife more of a character. They actually gave her a couple lines in the episode. We heard her for the first time. I wonder if it's going to be a Muppet Babies situation with her character. Like, we never see her face. We only hear her talking off screen, or we only see other characters looking at her. We never see her full on. So here are my big questions for you guys. What was your favorite moment from the episode? And how long do you think it's going to be before Agent Sousa finds out that Agent Carter is the anonymous tipster? Right now, I feel like that's the big tease. Like, they'll kind of develop their relationship a little bit. Like, they'll deal more with the, do you really like Peggy? How does Peggy feel about Agent Sousa? And then eventually he'll find out that she's the tipster and it'll cause a bunch of chaos. I wouldn't be surprised if that also happened around the time that we found out who the real villain was. It's like a bunch of little fuses for these different bombs that are all going to go off at the same time. Okay, so now time for my top 5 thumbs down. These are just like things that I felt like did not work in the episode. So Dooley and the SSR being over the top assholes. All the agents are even being assholes to themselves. All the male agents. I feel like it's like a little too over the top. I think on the page it works just fine, but the actors' performances were just a little extreme. Like especially Dooley's. Like, I want Stark's head. Like, yes, we get it. An agent died. You're upset, but you're supposed to be the boss. You're supposed to be the smart person here. Like, I understand like what they're going for, what the tone is meant to imply. It just feels like they're acting in a stage play and they're trying to shout to the back row. So my next thumbs down are really like 2 thumbs down. So like double thumbs down on like the morning, like the day boarding room scenes, Mrs. Fry's the new Red Skull, and the breakfast scene. I felt like this dragged a little bit. I was really hoping for something awesome with the Harry Houdini reveal, but she just threw Molly under the bus. All the fun stuff happens at night, so I'd like to spend more time at the boarding house at night. I guess you could look at it as setup, like they're trying to set up something happening there at night, like someone breaking in and something crazy will happen. Otherwise, they wouldn't beat us over the head with the second floor being like such an impenetrable place. So my last thumbs down is actually Peggy just getting shot in the face continuously in this episode. I wonder how long it's going to be before they give her a big win. Like if they're just going to keep slapping her in the face. Like she can't take credit for any of these wins. Now the SSR is chasing after her, like they're trying to connect her to Leviathan, who they don't even know exists. And then they spend all day just screaming in her face and telling her she's incompetent. I felt like the downer ending was totally on purpose. They just want Peggy to start trusting other people, and obviously someone's going to have to betray that trust at some point. I wonder if it's going to be Angie or if it's going to be Dottie, like this new character. If you spotted any other Easter eggs in the episode that I didn't mention, just write them below in the comments. So next week will be another new episode. It'll be episode 4. Be sure to subscribe to get that. I am going to be doing a Q&A just because the Ultron trailer dropped. Everyone has a bunch of questions about that, as well as the Black Panther character that everyone was wondering about last night. So I'll do a Q&A tomorrow night. There's also going to be a new Arrow trailer for Arrow Season 3, so I'll post a video for that tomorrow too. So right now, if you haven't seen it like 20 or 30 times already, here's a link to the Age of Ultron trailer, the new trailer, and click here to catch up on Agent Carter for last week's episode. Thank you so much for watching, so let's all high five. I'll see you guys tomorrow.